what's going on? Welcome to my channel. With the knowledge of the two upcoming buffs, I'd like to share some of my thoughts on number one, what I think about the two buffs, and number two, the champs that I want to see get a buff more. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to go class by class quickly, give an analysis of the class, and then get into the desired buffs. I'm going to pick two champs who I would like to see and who I believe the community would also like to see. If this video can get about 60 measly likes, I will make a video, maybe like a little series about the champs I talk about in greater detail about what I would do to fix them, things of that nature. So if you want to see that, and smash the like button, drop me a sub, and stay tuned. That being said, let's go ahead and get into the video. There isn't much that is more exciting than the prospect of old outdated champs getting buffed up. A lot of these are older champs, so that means that if they're good and fun to play, then our rosters just will get a little bit better and more fun. For this reason, when Kabam announces a champ buff that everyone is confused about or really not that excited, it stings just a little bit more. Kabam has a pretty bad track record of not being super great at listening to us and the community and giving us what we ask for. So under a lot of circumstances, I can at least understand why, if we ask for crazy things like 6-star class nexuses or compensation of that nature, then it makes sense why they can't give us that. It would literally destroy the game. So half the fun of this game is chasing champs. So it's kind of like, if they gave us that stuff, it would be like enabling God mode in most other games. It'd be fun for about 20 minutes or whatever. Then you'd get bored because, the white whale is no longer out there for you to chase. So, however, whenever it comes to champs we want to see get buffed, it doesn't make sense to why they can't target the champs we want to see get buffed. So, briefly talk about the two upcoming buffs. So, OG Storm, initially I was a little excited, but also kind of confused because she's already a pretty good champ. She's not like the best, wrong storm there. She's not like the best champ or anything, but she does have that highest damage over time potential in the game. So for that reason, I think that I would put her at the bottom of the list on the champs that I would want to buff. So yeah, I think she's going to be awesome after the buff. I've already brought mine to rank 2, so that kind of makes it a little bit more exciting for me. But it just seems like, to me, it kind of seems like Kabam is worrying about vacuuming the carpet when, the kitchen's on fire. Does the carpet need to be cleaned? Yes. But the freaking kitchen is on fire, so it kind of makes sense to focus on that first. So, Mordo, I was super excited here. He was getting buffed, and I surely thought it would be an overhaul because Mordo is not that great. Sure, an argument can be made about, his soul barbs and whatnot, but he is far from meta and has the potential to be a great Mystic champ because Mordo is one of Doctor Strange's main adversaries. So when looking over his buff, I have to admit I was very underwhelmed. They didn't really change anything about his kit, and they barely tuned up the damage. I just don't think it's going to be enough to bring him into the meta, and currently I think the Mystic class needs the most help out of all the classes, so it just feels like a missed opportunity to help buff a class with another great champ. So, okay, so with that out of the way, I'm going to start with the one class that I think needs the buffs the least, and that class is, of course, mutants. So there's so many god tier and useful champs here that if I was heading up the buff program, it would be a hot minute before I even looked at mutants. But if I had to pick, I believe I would choose this Cyclops here, the blue team Cyclops. He is a fan favorite. He's from the old 90s cartoons and things like that, and he's kind of the Cyclops that comes to mind when you think of Cyclops. So he wasn't the first one to enter the game, but he's the one that is more recognizable. He's the good guy Cyclops. I think the other one's kind of villainous in a way. So he has the potential to be good with a buff. I think that if I was buffing him up, that I would kind of make him sort of like give him like a Cap Infinity War like motif, going with him being like the leader of the X-Men, so he could like boost his damage a little bit, not to crazy levels, but also give him like a huge utility belt like Cap with his X-Men teammates. And it'd be cool to see Cyclops filling this role in a similar fashion. There's all kinds of different things. Like, I think Cap Infinity War has like armor breaks and petrifies, that sort of thing. You could stick with that sort of theme, except instead of those specific like abilities, you can maybe give him like the ability to go nullify immune or something. That would be helpful for a lot of the mutant class, because a lot of them stack prowess and stuff like that. So it would be helpful there. And then just like maybe like miss counters or things like that, and use that to do it. So the second champ that I would buff out of the mutant would be Beast, because he would be at the top of my list, because he's similar to Cyclops in the fact that he's a fan favorite character. He's in the comics and shows and stuff like that. He's a critical member of the team, so he's a well-known character. Everybody knows Beast, but in this game, until making this video, like I forgot that he was a character. I was trying to think of who I would buff, and I'm like, maybe just Cyclops. And then I was like, oh yeah, Beast. He's a guy. He's a character in this game. So there's a lot you could do with Beast. He has genius level like intellect, superhuman abilities like speed and strength and reflex and balance. So there's actually a lot you could do with that. But both of these champs, I think, are fan favorites. And then they also both desperately need the buff to be relevant in the game. So moving on to the next class, I think would be Cosmic. Or no, Skill. Let's start with Skill first. So I think Skill would probably be at the bottom of my list also, because it's already gotten so much love from the buff program. Kingpin, Mole Man, Falcon, Crossbones, these were all champs that were kind of asked before, and then they got buffed, and now they're like top of the game. Kingpin, he's a powerhouse. Mole Man is a very desired champ. So they're doing pretty well on the buff front. And there's not, like, looking over, there's not a lot where I would be like, okay, like, this person desperately needs a buff or anything like that. But, if I had to pick one that I want most out of Skill, I would have to say that it would be Black Panther Civil War. Just because, he's such a cool-looking character. His model is super sleek, and it looks very similar to the movie versions. And, just out of respect for, Chadwick Boseman's passing and everything, like, once that happened, Kabam kind of promised us a buff for him, but, it's like they continue to buff other champs, and pause it and everything else. So it doesn't make sense to me personally why they haven't picked him. Like, why did Storm need a buff over him or whatever? Like, he would definitely be up at the top of my list of characters to buff. And then there's a lot you could do with him also, so definitely up there on the list. So if I had to pick one more out of here, I think I would go with OG Daredevil. I do like the model or the skin of the Daredevil's Hell's Kitchen more, but I think he's had his shot, so I think that I would go with him. Because in the comics, like, whereas the Hell's Kitchen version is kind of like the TV show variant, and it's more like grounded in like a reality and less suspended disbelief and stuff like that, this one is more like the comic book version, where he has like crazy like abilities, like he can fall like 100 stories and stuff like that, and then somehow like not die, and more unbelievable things. But I think you could do that to really enhance this character and make him a pretty strong character to play with. And it would be pretty cool to see a character so old as this guy to come back into the meta and be relevant again, because look at his ability kit, it's super short here. So yeah, so that would be my two picks out of the skill class. So the next class that I would pick would be we'll go and talk about Cosmic here real quick. So I don't think that Cosmic needs a lot of love. They have a lot of amazing champs top tier. Hercules, like all these guys at the top here are amazing champions. And then Mutant Class, which was arguably probably like one of the weaker classes not too long ago, has had a lot of love with the buff program and adding hype as a 6-star and the addition of Hercules and all, and it's just doing really well right now. So I don't really see the need to prioritize Cosmic Champions as targets for the buff program. But if I did pick one, everybody's been screaming it from the rooftops. Like, it's well known that the community wants to see a Groot buff. In my opinion, Groot isn't really my favorite character. He's kind of boring. Like, I mean, he's a big tree, and he just says, "I'm Groot" all the time. Like, man, I don't really care about what you got going on because I don't really know what you have to say because you always say that. So, but nonetheless, he is a Soki champ. He's not very good at all. Probably arguably one of the worst champs in the game. His kit is not designed very well. His numbers don't hold up with today's current levels. And yeah, he's just not that great of a champ. So moving on to the next one, I think I would go with Miss Marvel here. Again, another super old champ. And she's just a powerhouse in comics and everything like that. So I hate to see champions that are supposed to be like OP by nature, in comics and things like that, and then they come into this game or whatever, and then they're just not playable. Miss Marvel is definitely not a playable character. She don't have anything going on in her kit. She don't even have any abilities at all on her special 2 or 3. It's just, she's basically a vanilla character that's poison immune. So there's a lot you could do with her, and I think a lot of people would be happy to be able to play this character, so that's where I'm at with the Cosmic. I would kind of like to see like OG Thor get brought back up to where he was, but he's still pretty decent at a high sig. So those would be the picks there. The next class I want to talk about is Tech. There's 2 champs in here that stand out to me personally more that I would really love to see get buffed. One is Green Goblin. I think Green Goblin is just an awesome character, this game has so many Spider-Verse characters with the Venoms, all the million Spider-Man and everything else. It's sad to see Spider-Man's primary nemesis, Green Goblin, to be just not really usable as a character that we can play. Sure, he's a nuisance on defense, but and there's a place for those kind of characters, but I don't think arch nemesis that's the place that they need to be holding down. We want to use Green Goblin. I mean, he looks so cool. He's got his glowing eyes and just the shading that they use on him. I mean, he's such an awesome looking character with his little hoverboard and everything else. It would be so awesome to be able to use him and just wreck everybody with a bad version of Green Goblin. So Green Goblin definitely would be up there as one of my top priorities. The next, for me personally, I would really like to see maybe not an overhaul or anything for Iron Man Infinity War, but he's another defender, more or less. Yes, he has high damage potential and everything, but it's just not really sustainable or feasible. It takes a really long time to ramp up, and it's hard to maintain because his debuffs are so short in duration that it's very stressful play style, and for that reason, a lot of people don't like to play him. But he looks super awesome. I mean, his suit it's perfect. The way he floats and uses his repulsors and things like that. His animations are just so awesome. So I'd really love to see a tune-up / buff on him. Maybe make his power drain a little bit stronger or easier on his rotation to really bring him into the meta as a usable offensive character. That would be awesome to see. I mean, he basically sacrificed himself for half the universe. So I think Kabam ought to love Iron Man Infinity War 3000 because I'm pretty sure that everyone else in the community does. So, but yeah, that would be super sick too. Next up, moving on to Science. There's a few good candidates here in Science. You got Spider-Man OG and the OG Cap and everything else like that. But if I had to pick 2 out of here, I believe that I would want to pick OG Hulk. Just because, again, sticking with the whole super OP character who sucks in game. sort of thing. Like, Hulk is one of the most powerful characters in the Marvelverse, and it's sad to see like that he's not super usable here. He's forgotten about. His ability kit isn't really there. I mean, it's just he's super outdated. He was one of the first characters in the game, I think, in the original pool. I would love to see him get a nice rework, bring him back into the meta, make Hulk, Hulk and smash things and have a lot of immunities or something like that. But I would love to be able to play around with this character and do some damage and smash some things with Hulk. Next for me would be Sentry, kind of going with the same thing. Like, first of all, he looks awesome. He's got the glowing eyes there. I mean, he just looks like a badass. He looks like he's like Liam Neeson with a long blonde wig or something like that. Like, he's gonna come find you and wreck it. But in reality, he sucks. He's not very good at all. And to compound it, they hammed up this bio here and with the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns, as if like, the power of a regular million suns not exploding wasn't enough. But it just kind of like salt in the wound there, because he don't even have like the power of like, I don't know, like 1,000,000 sunflowers or something. I don't know, but that's what it should say. But in comics and everything, Sentry is so OP. He's probably like top 5, definitely top 10 strongest characters in Marvel, period. He's up there with the greats. I mean, he's basically immortal and invincible and everything else. He's like a hyped up version of Superman or Hyperion or something like that. So it would be awesome to be able to use this guy, because he does look pretty cool. I'd love to be able to say Sentry actually does some good damage and is useful. Last up is the class I think that needs the love the most. They do have some of the top champs in the game with Doom and Diablo and Tiger and everything, but it seems like, most of the power of this class is packed into like, at most probably like 4 or 5 champs. So there's a lot in here that could use some love. But if I had to pick, number 1 would be Doctor Strange. 100% Doctor Strange. He deserves to be like the best Mystic in the game. Like, he needs to be the person who like dethrones Doctor Doom from being number 1. He needs to take that spot because he is the master of the mystical arts. Like, when you think of a Mystic character, first thing that comes to mind is, without a doubt, Doctor Strange. So he definitely should be better than Doom. Fight me on that. I love Doom and everything else, but Doctor Strange, it's just sad to see that such an OP character is just, he got nerfed in 12.0 and then he's just been irrelevant ever since. So I would love to see him like get a super awesome buff and make him like so OP again, and just be able to do everything and be like, check all the blocks with prestige, defense, offense, utility, attack, everything else. I just want to see like a broken Doctor Strange. Like, that would be awesome. Next up, kind of mirroring or shadowing that, I think that Dormammu would deserve the buff, because one, his damage just isn't that great. He does have potential to do like a lot of like power control, and his regen capability is pretty up there with the top tier, but the thing that really holds him back is his damage. It's just not enough. Like, he could be a pretty good tune-up. Don't have to invest a lot of time. Just bump up his stats, his numbers, make his damage more relevant, more in line with at least average in the game, maybe slightly above average, because he's freaking Dormammu. I mean, even the guy that I believe should be top of the Mystic class couldn't beat this dude. He had to like lock him in a time loop until like Dormammu basically got bored. It was like, all right, dude, that's enough. Let's just get this over with. Like, fine, whatever, I won't kill you. And then he let him go. So Dormammu is one of the most like feared beings in Marvel. He's the Dark Dimensional King or whatever, and he definitely should be a top meta Mystic champ in my opinion. So that's my general thoughts on the buffs and who I would really like to see and why I would love to see them get buffed. So I would love to hear what y'all want to see when the buffs come out. Who would be the first champ that you would pick to get a buff? Like I said earlier, like if I can get at least 60 likes on this video, I'll make like a little series about the champs I just talked about in greater detail and talk about what I would do to fix them and what I would want to see. So If you want to see that, go ahead and smash that like button, drop me a sub, and stay tuned for more content coming up. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate you for coming out.